Hello, my friend. Welcome to another episode of The Fool Rides Again, the podcast where I, Jinx, your host and imaginary friend, answers the burning question of what happens when you release a rider into the wild and he gets a chance to explore the world. So if you've ever been interested in topics such as plot development, world building, character creation, or even character motivation, then this is a podcast for you, so please stay tuned. With that being said, on this week's fantastic episode, I'm going to answer the burning question of what happens when you release a rider to the wild and he gets a chance to explore the world of surfing. What better way to do that than start off with a couple of scenarios. First one being this. Imagine you're an individual who's always dreamed of surfing. You've tried every other outdoor activity you can, but surfing has never been possible because you live in a landlocked area with no oceans nearby. The closest you've ever been able to go is windsurfing, and it's not quite the same, you've been told. So, with that being said, you decide to book an expensive trip to a beach resort on another country because you hear there are some fantastic waves out there. And while you're at it, you decide to book a couple surf lessons. You have no idea what to expect, but when you get there, all you see is an endless ocean and a gleaming beach full of people. You're slightly self-conscious of going out and trying to surf because you don't really want to fall in front of all these people. But you know if you really want to get your dream of hitting every outdoor activity possible, you have to try this. You won't get another chance. And you spent so much money already. So you go, you meet up with your instructors, they teach you the basics, and you go out on the water. You hit the very first wave, you fail, and you fall. As soon as you surface, the person on that beach is laughing at you. What happens next? Now, if that one's a little too mundane for you, how about this scenario instead? Imagine you have a dream in life of surfing in every ocean and trying out every wave you can. So you are constantly booking trips across the world. You initially start with the local destinations close to you, then you move to the super popular destinations, and those started becoming repetitive for you, so you started going off the beaten trail, finding those little beaches that don't have a lot of people, those ones that are barely on the map, ones that you have to hike miles and miles and miles to find, just carrying your surfboard. And you find one day, and to your surprise, there is no one there. It's just a nice little beach that has some fantastic waves. You get out there, you start paddling out to the wave, and you hit the first wave. It's great. You go out for another wave, and as you're paddling for the second wave, you see movement in the water. And you think, oh no, did I find a shark-infested cove? And you start paddling back. But as you start paddling back, it's not a fin that surfaced from the water. You have a tentacle, and it's not small. It is a very giant tentacle, and it's coming towards you. What happens next? All right, if that scenario took a slightly odder turn for you, how about this one instead? Imagine you're an individual who has decided to book a trip to another side of the world. And while you're there, you hear about an opportunity to take surf lessons. And you think to yourself, that's going to be fun. It can make an interesting story when I go home. And you book it. You sign up for the surf lessons, and day of the class arrives, you show up to it, and there's a handful of you there. And from what you gather, no one in your group has ever surfed before. So you're like, okay, I'm among like-minded people. I'm among people who won't judge me if I fall off the board or don't ever stand up because we've all never surfed before. And you get there, and the very first thing they do is have you attend a safety briefing where an instructor tells you everything about the board and everything to watch out for and how far out in the ocean you're expected to go versus how far you can't go because you're going to be dragged off to the ocean. And you're paying attention to it, but you catch sight of everyone else on the beach, and you're kind of focusing more on the other beachgoers instead of your instructor. You miss some of the important details about what he's telling you, and you don't say anything about it. No one calls you out on it, and you move on to the next step of learning how to stand on the board while you're on the beach, and you pick it up pretty quickly, and now you're moving into the water, and you didn't pay attention to anything the instructor said, so the first opportunity to surf, you stand up on the board right away and surf to the shore. And you're like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. So then you think to yourself, I want to catch a bigger wave. I want to surf for longer. And while your instructor's helping someone else out, you paddle farther out into the ocean, farther than the instructor told you to go, because you want to catch a bigger wave. But as you're getting out there, you get caught in a current, and you start getting pulled farther and farther away from shore, and you don't know what to do. Now you're drifting off into the ocean, and no one knows you're going. What happens next? And because I always do it, here's a fourth scenario for you, my friend. Imagine you're an individual who has lived on Earth your entire life, but suddenly there is a opportunity for you to transport to another realm. And you take it. You go through the portal to the other world, and everything in this new world is completely different than what you're used to. In your world, everyone surfs on water. But in this new world, everyone surfs on the wind, and no one surfs on the water. And you decide you're going to try it. You are going to go surf the wind. What happens next? All right, my friend, that should be enough of the scenarios for today. So, with that being said, let's move to the next part and explain the inspiration behind them. Recently, I took a trip to Costa Rica, and I wasn't there for super long, but I was there for long enough to try a couple of different things. And one of the things I tried was surfing. I've really never done it before, and I've always wanted to. I've heard great things about it, and I've seen people do it, and it looks amazing to me because it's in all the movies. All those movies out there, people surfing, and all the outdoor sports of people trying to surf. I've driven along beaches before and watched people in the water, and I thought to myself, this is one sport I need to try because I've really tried most everything else. I've gone snowboarding, I've gone skiing, and I paddleboard, and I've windsurfed, and gone ATV driving, and skateboarding, and all these other things, but I've really never been able to surf. I've never had an opportunity for it because my state is landlocked, and I don't have an ocean close by. And when I did have an ocean, it was not one you could surf. It was too rocky and dangerous, and the ocean was cold. Not ideal conditions, especially to learn. So, when I got to Costa Rica, one thing I knew for sure is I'm going to surf. I have a couple days staying in a beach town, and there's a fantastic ocean, and it's a fantastic beach, and there is a surf class. So I booked it and signed up with a couple other people and went surfing for a couple hours. Mind you, I'm not very good at it. I fell quite a bit. I fell off the board, but I did stand up. And I got the hang of it. And I think after a couple more lessons and trial and error, I probably could be relatively decent at this sport. Definitely not a pro. But that wasn't my goal. My goal was simply to try surfing so I can say I've surfed before. And what better way to say than I surfed for the first time in Costa Rica, where the beaches are fantastic and the ocean is beautiful. So I pulled a lot of my inspiration from that little trip. I went surfing for about 2 hours, and it gave me so many different ideas for a story. Now, my goal with surfing was pretty simple. Stand up on the water and hopefully not fall, at least once. Now, to continue the story and where the inspiration comes from, I'm not just talking about Costa Rica, I should move along directly to the surf trip. It was probably day 4 or 5 of my trip to Costa Rica, and I met up with a couple other people, drove to a little town, and we were told we are going to be picked up at this one location for our surf trip. And there were probably 8 or so of us in the group going surfing for the first time. We met our drivers, they drove us to the location, we got there, and we met our guides. First things our guides told us is, you do not need anything. Leave all of your belongings at the vehicles because you do not want them getting lost in the ocean. So, our backpacks and our shirts and our shoes and our sunglasses were all left at the truck. And after which we just followed our guides through a long, narrow trail. And you don't really see a beach where you're at. This parking lot, it's just a small parking lot surrounded by trees. And you think to yourself, is there really a beach here? I started to wonder that. But I didn't need to wonder for long because I wandered through the trail and eventually the trees broke. And right before me was just an amazing sight. An endless ocean with waves crashing against a beautiful beach. And I thought to myself, this is where you imagine surfing. This is the type of beach you can go to. The sand is soft, the weather is fantastic, the ocean is blue, the waves are constant, and the people are having fun. And so I came to that realization, and I thought to myself, I didn't make a mistake in signing up for this surf lesson. I continued to follow my guide to another area, and he told us, okay, because it's middle of the day, it's hot out, and the sun is high in the sky. The sand is hot, and there is no shade on a beach, and none of us have shoes on. So he leads us into a little spot in the trees and say, this is where we are going to do our safety brief because it is hot, and I don't want you all standing around on these scorching sands. We were all very thankful for that because it really was hot out. And we go there to the lesson, gather around. Some of us are sitting on stumps and some of us are leaning against trees and stuff. And our instructor there is with a board and he starts instructing. Mind you, some of this I understand. how to stand on a board, all that. He went over that. And if you're goofy or regular, I'm like, I understood that because I was a skater. I understand how to stand on a board of my preference. I'm a regular skater, so I stand on a surfboard the same way. I'm regular. I'm not goofy. But others are paying attention, and I'm paying attention to him because I don't want to mess up when I'm surfing. But as I'm sitting there, I'm also glancing around at people and seeing others in the group really aren't paying attention to the surf lesson. They are just watching everyone else on the beach and ignoring the instructor, not caring about the safety stuff that he's going over. But really wasn't my concern because I wanted to make sure I was being safe, so I listened. And after 15-20 minutes of a safety brief, he brought us out to the area. We all got our rash guards, and we were all given a board, and we were told, okay, at this point you're going to teach you how to stand on a board and how to pop up on a board. We all get there and try that for a couple minutes. Eventually we get the hang of it, and our instructors split us off into groups of 3, and we follow them to the ocean, and they say, okay, we are going to tell you how to surf, and we're going to each help you one at a time. Do not get on the board until we tell you that you are good to go. Cool. Works for me. I get to sit there in the water and watch other people practice before me, and eventually it'll be my turn. And because we're all going together, and we've all never done this before, I'm not really concerned about people laughing at me because I fall. None of us have done this before. None of us are pros. And if someone falls, it's acceptable. It's expected. It eventually gets to my turn, and I fall off the board immediately. Everyone else goes again, it gets to my turn again, and I fall off the board again. And everyone goes, it gets to me again, and my instructor tells me beforehand, says, stop thinking. Be one with the ocean. Let the wave tell you when to stand. And I think to myself, this is very vague. Let the water tell me when to stand. Okay, let's try this. I expect to fall. But surprisingly enough, that was the very first time I actually rode a wave all the way to shore. When I stopped thinking and was just one with the ocean. I don't know how that made sense to me, but it did. After that, I started standing more often. It got to the point where my instructor's like, okay, you're getting the hang of this. Now you can move to the next step and paddle. Okay, now you're getting the hang of this even more. I want you to jump up onto the board and try these different techniques for standing. I'm like, okay. I tried them all, and sometimes I fell. Sometimes I was able to ride the wave completely to shore, and it was great. I say I surfed. But while I'm here, the other instructors are having issues because someone started tripped out to the ocean, and one of the instructors actually had to go out and retrieve them. And they were gone for 20 or so minutes before they came back, and the person was safe. But that was creepy that someone actually drifted out to the ocean. And after 2 hours or so, getting tired and things, the lesson came to an end. We all paddled back to shore, got a photo taken together, returned the surfboards and the rash guards, and piled back into the vehicles and drove back to town. So it was a pretty good lesson, but that lesson gave me a lot of inspiration. And my scenarios at the beginning kind of show it. For example, the very first scenario of everyone laughing. I am the individual that wants to try all the outdoor activities, so my inspiration for that was a character wants to try all outdoor activities, so they book a trip to another place to try surfing. I booked a trip to another place to try out surfing, and because I've never surfed before, I was nervous about people laughing at me. That showed in the scenario itself. They were nervous of everyone laughing. In my experience, no one laughed, so I played around with that. What if someone actually did laugh? What if the entire place laughed at the newbie trying to surf? It's a very basic scenario, but it's a very possible scenario, and it's a scenario that people could potentially fear, and because of that, people might not surf because they fear this possibility. I don't like the idea of people laughing at me, but I'm not scared of people laughing at me. But what if someone is scared of it? Or what if it really happens? What would that person do? It leads to an interesting opportunity for story writing. You create a character that his worst fear comes true and he is just horrible in public. Does he continue to surf? Or does he immediately run away because he fell once and everyone laughed at him? Does he pick a fight with everyone who's laughing at him? There's so many possibilities because of how he reacts to the laugh. And that is up to the author on how they want to write that. They can react however they want, and they're all completely justified. They're all realistic options because it is human behavior of how people react. Not everyone is going to react the same way. Me, I would probably get up again and try to surf again and prove to the people that I don't care that they're laughing at me. I paid the money to surf, so I'm going to surf. But that is my thought process. But in reality, I don't honestly know what I would do because I'm not in that situation. So it's a very realistic scenario. Now, my second scenario is not realistic. In that scenario, I have a surfer who is trying to surf everywhere in the world, and he finds a remote location. Okay, realistic. No one's there. Realistic, because he hiked so far to find this one remote beach. Realistic. There are lots of movies about someone finding a remote beach and trying to surf. Getting out on the water and seeing movement in the water. You are on the ocean. There are things that live in the water. There are things that live there. So it's realistic you would see something. But what people expect to see is a shark, because that is what people fear in the ocean. They fear sharks. They don't want to go in the ocean because there is a shark. But in my scenario, I changed it from a shark to a tentacle. And I didn't specify what kind of tentacle it is. I just said it was large. So you can technically have it as an octopus. You can technically have it as a squid. You can have the kraken there for all I care. Or you can just imagine a whole new creature there. Something with a tentacle that is trying to get the surfer. What lives in the ocean? We don't know everything down there. So it's possible you could put something there that no one knows about. No one's ever seen before because this is a very remote location. Maybe this one giant creature lives only in that cove. And that is the reason no one knows about it, because everyone who goes to that cove is eaten by the tentacle monster. And you can take it a whole lot of different directions. You can make that a horror story where they're trying to fight off this monster and your main character manages to actually get back to shore avoiding the tentacle monster. But for all we know, the tentacle monster can go on land and he chases him through land. And now they're going to civilization with this giant monster going after him and they have to kill it. Or maybe it's only a sea creature and this person goes back to town trying to report that there's a monster living in the ocean. They go there and the monster's no longer there. He moved on. He moved farther into the ocean and found a new cove, because that's what he does. He migrates. And now everyone thinks your main character is delusional, and no one trusts him anymore. But your main character wants to prove that he was right, so he gets over his fear of the monster, and he tries to track him down wherever he is in the world. He reads news articles, trying to see if there's any sightings of this tentacle monster, and he travels around the world trying to find this. Instead of wanting to surf, he wants to find this monster to prove that he is not delusional, that he was telling the truth. And it's also a tentacle, so you can also go pretty pervy with that too. But I don't want to go into that detail. So there are so many possibilities with that though. Just because something lives in the water, I don't know what lives in the ocean, but I can imagine a whole bunch of different things. So throw a monster into your scenario and it can change the genre completely. So many possibilities. And it gives you a chance also to be very creative because of what lives in the ocean. Is it just an octopus? Is it the kraken? Is it some whole new thing that you created? Some new monster that you want to show off, that you want to give to the world? That is up to you. But you don't have to go super dark with these stories either. In the third scenario, you should be able to see that my inspiration easily came from my actual trip. Someone did not pay attention to the safety briefing, so they drifted off to sea because they did not listen. It happened in my actual class. Someone drifted off and we went to retrieve them. In my scenario, I made it the main character and I made it that no one retrieved him yet. He started to drift off. Maybe someone came to retrieve him after a while, but you can make that your story. Someone actually came to retrieve him, or your character drifted so far away that no one could retrieve him. Possibilities there. And that's just my inspiration from my trip. What would have happened in this situation? I just ended the scenario early to give you the opportunity to think of an ending and possibilities of what to come. Your scenarios don't have to be completely based on reality and your entire trip. You can take a little small snippet of your trip and your experiences and cut them early just to see what would happen if something else took place. I know someone retrieved him. If I was to write a story completely based on my surf lesson, someone would retrieve him. But this is no longer really a story. This is more of a, biography type thing because it's dictating exactly what happened in my life and what I experienced. I don't want that. I'm a fiction writer. I'm a genre writer. So I need to ask the what if question. What if no one retrieved the person? What would happen? What if someone went to retrieve the person, but the instructor who went to retrieve him also went too far out and they were no longer able to go back to shore? And now two people are trapped together on the ocean. Do they drift off into the middle of the ocean on a surfboard? Do they drift to another beach altogether? Do they drift to another island? So many possibilities there, because it's just, again, the question of what if something happened instead of this? What if the person never made it back to shore instead of an instructor retrieved them after 20 minutes? You can change it completely too from perspective-wise. In my scenario, I made it the main character drifting off. In reality, it was just another person in my group who drifted off. There's possibilities there, but then you can also change the perspective even further. Well, if your main character is the instructor and a person in the group drifts off, does the main character go after them? They kind of have to, they're an instructor. But what if it's the school itself? What if the school learned that several people in their classes drifted off? Do they close down the school because they can't maintain safety and the security of their guests and their customers because everyone seems to be drifting off to sea? Change the perspective a little bit too. Allows for a whole bunch of opportunities on storytelling. And after that, if you change perspective, there's so many other ways you can alter it too to get inspiration. I kind of hinted at in the last episode of changing the element. Everyone went from snowboarding to surfing because the snow melted and it became water. But in my scenario this time, I made it wind. What if people were surfing on the wind and not windsurfing like we know it, where you're on the water on a board with a sail? No, don't do that. But you're actually surfing on the wind like you would surf on the water. What happens there? That is a completely different idea because I just changed the element. I could have changed it to so many other things. What if people surfed on lava instead of water? Possibilities there. What happens? Just change the element up. And you get a whole different idea for surfing. You get a whole different idea for world building because I'm now in a fantasy world where people break the laws of physics. They surf on the wind. And how does that actually happen? Do they have a normal surfboard and the wind just is strong enough to allow them to stand on it? Or do they have a completely modified surfboard that has propellers and stuff on it, and they're basically standing on that and using technology to surf? Lots of ways to take that, and that's just up to the rider again on how they want to do it. It's easy to come up with ideas and inspiration if you just start asking yourself the questions of what if? What if this happened instead of this? What if I changed the perspective of this? What if I changed the element? If you ask yourself those questions, you get ideas, and stories will come to mind. It's one of my favorite things to do. Anywhere I go, I ask myself those questions of what would I do in this situation? What would happen in this situation? What if I imagine this in water? If I imagine this in fire? If I imagine this in lava? Or what lives there for all I know? I don't know everything that lives in the ocean, so what could potentially live there? Is it a monster that wants to eat me? Is it a monster that wants to love me? Is it a monster that just wants to have a friend? I don't know. All those are possible answers. I don't know it, and most people probably don't know that, and they will appreciate you coming up with a story idea for it. I do. But, my friend, it's getting to that point of the episode where I really do have to call it. I've gone on for a while about these questions and these scenarios because I enjoyed it. But before I let you go, I have a writing prompt for you. Write a story about an individual who decided to surf for the very first time. He joins a group. They're all on the water, and as he's standing on the board, making his way back to shore, the beach disappears. Now, I don't care the genre. It could be horror, it could be fantasy, it could be a romance, and I don't care the format. It could be flash fiction, poetry, a song, or even a journal entry. As always, all I really care about is you have fun with it and make the most out of it. But now it is time for me to call it a day and let you go. If you enjoyed the content of this week's episode, please give me a follow. And if you want any more content from the Jinks'd world, check out my website at jinksdworld.com. That is JINKSDWORLD.com. And until next time, have fun writing.